Okay, greetings from Govardhan on Ekadasi. I will happily shave on Dwadasi. I told you I go through different stages. One is kind of gruffy, cool. Then it's Gaudiya Mat Sannyasi. And then it becomes Ted Kaczynski, the Mad Bomber, who was famous when I grew up. They couldn't find out who the Mad Bomber was. Nice today. We on Ekadasi, we walked around the Govinda Kund side. That was nice. We have a few devotees staying here. And so many opportunities for classes, so many groups. I went into Vrindavan 2 days in a row. Groups of about 80 or 100 people. And it was really nice. Acharya, Haribo, good. Okay, let's see if we can make sense out of the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta. I'm kind of doing it every day here, but I also understood that a lot of the verses we're doing, wait, let me, okay. 1 second, yeah. A lot of the verses we're doing had very long purports, and I think I'd rather just summarize where we're at. I think it'd be more suitable for this class. So let me just find the verse where I need to find the place where we're at. Okay, we're going to start at 166 of chapter 2 of book 2. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tato mahā-purāṇānāṁ. Mahopaniṣadāṁ tathā. Mādhya-sthyād āgamānāṁ tu. Jayo, jāto, priyaḥ. Then the major Purāṇas and Upaniṣads became arbitrators, and so victory went to the Āgamas. That pleased me very much. Purport: now that the most advanced Purāṇas and Upaniṣads and Āgamas had walked out of the debate, they were able to give impartial consideration to both sides, and they deemed correct the claim by the Āgamas that liberation is easily achieved simply by chanting mantras worshiping the personality of Godhead. As stated in the Vishnu Purāṇa, even the moon, sun, and other planets are created and destroyed again, but persons who have meditated on the 12-syllable Vishnu mantra never had to return even till the present day. The Padma Purāṇa gives the opinion the Supreme Lord is always satisfied when praised by the chanting of his mantras, and so he awards abundant enjoyment as well as eternal liberation. Purport: because Gop Kumar was absorbed in chanting a mantra addressed to the Supreme Lord and had no interest in other spiritual practices, he was extremely pleased by the conclusion of the debate. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Taksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivas Adi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare. So a little context. Mother Uttara wanted to know about the place. She heard about the people who had the greatest recipients of Krishna's mercy. She wanted to know about the place. And Maharaj Parikshit thought the best way to answer is to relate a story of a mature Brahmin who got a mantra, but without sufficient instruction. But it gave him some inspiration, and he finally wound up in Vrindavan, and he met this Gopakumar. And Gopakumar actually was sent by Sri Radha. I think we'll find that out later. That's the transcendental system. When you have some humility, which means you're seeking for God, and understanding that your own authority is insufficient to solve the problems of life, then God may make many arrangements to help us. So he somehow, this Mathura Brahmin, it's also a sub-theme, both with Gopakumar and this Mathura Brahmin, that when you come to the point of chanting Vishnu mantras, you've been in a long spiritual journey to get to that point. Aho bata swapa chato guriyanya jivagre vartate nama tubhyam. Jivagre, on the tongue, jiva, a mantra. Then so many things have been done. And Gopakumar said, I don't want to talk about myself, because that's not what a Vaishnava wants to do. But if my story is relevant to instruct you to come to a higher level of consciousness, then I'll tell the story. And he tells his own story, which is parallel to the Mathura Brahmin. The Mathura Brahmin got the mantra from a deity, Kamaksya, in a dream. Gopakumar got the mantra from a great mahā-bhāgavatāmṛta devotee who he met on the bank of the Jamuna, and told him this mantra will reveal the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Lord. And he began to look for the Supreme Lord. And he goes through this incredible journey. And it's a sincere journey, because he has a sincere feeling in his heart what he wants. He just doesn't have the information to guide him there. So it's almost like experimentation, that this doesn't fit, this doesn't fit, this doesn't fit. And he winds up going in this incredible progression. And similar things happen in every place. And I think that's also a karmic principle sometimes. We have to face something. And if we don't realize the lesson, it happens again and again and again. So it's almost like that with Gopakumar. He keeps on, it's just so difficult to get all the realizations we need to become self-realized. And the way I prove that to myself is the simple things I learn every year that I never saw before, which I thought at the time I already have a perfect vision of the world. And then there's, wow, this is another piece, and this is another piece, and we mature and we learn. So Gopakumar is just getting all these experiences. But one thing that happens again and again, in each place he goes, people are impressed with him simply by the basis of his simplicity and devotion, which are really the most attractive qualities, not your gyan, your knowledge, but the simplicity. Everybody knows it. It's right. They say, a person be better remembered for how he makes a person feel than what he's accomplished. And we feel that too. Those are ultimately the people we respect, not people with upadis. Upadis means degrees, designations, positions. But bhakti is sarva padi vinir muktam, tat puratvaina nirmalam. Rishi came to Rishi, sevanam bhakta. This is what bhakti is called, this kind of seva with the senses, to serve the controller of the senses, without sarvapadi vimir muktam, without any of these designations, these material designations that limit us to a certain false conception. I am MA, I am PhD. I remember, this is one of my favorite, when I was managing the Gurukul, I was involved in a lot of law cases, because somehow we had rented out the stores in front of the Gurukul, and then we wanted them back. And so I was in the courts, and you have to see the courts of Mathura to believe it. Like a lawyer's office is like, just like a little desk, and it's not even a room, it's kind of like a cloth little thing, and people sit there. And Prabhupada said that so many lies are spoken in the courts of Mathura that they hang in the air as sinful activities and fall on the participants. So it was wild. And every time you go to the case, the other people are not there, and then they delay it. It's just, you got to spend money to go there, and it's delayed. So this would happen again and again. So my case of getting this person out was based on my Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta accountant, who is such a character, Mr. Kapoor. He was such a character. But he's the one that had the dream of Prabhupada that had something to do with Andhra starting the 24-hour kirtan. And his thing as an accountant would be to never be there when you needed money. His whole thing is he didn't want to give out any money. And he's such a character. He had this walrus mustache and this one of those knit caps. And so we went, and the way you do it is there's the people who are testifying come in the middle, and the two lawyers on the other side, and then the judge. So the other lawyer on the other side was actually trained in Oxford, and somehow he's an anomaly there. He was very learned. So he wanted to discredit my witness, right? So he said, can you tell me, you're an accountant, what degrees you have, right? So my Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta lawyer says to the judge, he says, could I ask the learned counsel a question? Yes, he says, well, what degrees do you have? So he says, well, I have an MA in philosophy from the University of Allahabad, an LLB from the University of, I got a barrister degree from Oxford, I got a PhD. And he said, what are you asking me this? Answer my question. The judge says, answer his question. What degree you have? And my Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta lawyer says, I have 2 more than him. And we won the case. Anyway, Gop Kumar, each place he goes in the interplanetary system, someone's coming from some higher planet that he's never heard of. The people there respect him, so he thinks this must be higher and I must go to this place. So he goes to Anyway, he's on Tapaloka, and he's not exactly so happy there at Tapaloka. We discussed this because God is in the mind. So there's no external worship, and there's no community. They come together and they discuss, Gyan or something, then they go back. And he's knocking on doors, no one wants to talk to him. Bṛhad-bhāsis like to talk, So he's a Bṛhad-bhāsi. It's like a different type of mood. As Raghunath Das Goswami, as Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta Saraswati said in the Vrindavan mahā-purāṇānāṁ, he said that I'd rather hear the prajalpa of the Bṛhad-bhāsis, the idle talk, than attain love of God at any place, or something like that. So Brahma comes, and I'm doing this story really short because I said it, and he doesn't even know who Brahma is, so everybody's laughing at him. I made the joke yesterday. It's like if Donald Trump walked down the Prickram path and someone knew, who's that? Yeah, so who's that? He didn't know who Lord Brahma was. Can you imagine how simple he was? And then he heard how venerable he is, and the thing that he had a place on his planet, Brahmaloka, Satyaloka, an enclave, where Mahapurush, I think Mahavishnu, is worshipped. And he had this intimate relationship because Brahma is the son of Mahavishnu. So Mahavishnu was giving him a lot of affection, especially training him and asking him to repeat things. It was so intimate. So Gopkumar became very attracted, and he went there, and he had some exchange with Mahavishnu, but it was so attractive to him, this relationship. And then he had this desire, I like this relationship. Yeah, we did this last Wednesday. I like this relationship. And then he chanted his mantra, and the Gopal mantra fulfills your desires. So somehow or other, in the universal system, the transcendental system, there was, after the universal devastation, there was some foam from that devastation. Brahma touched it, it turned into a demon. And the demon tried to consume him, and he hid, and then he had a traumatic stress disorder, and he was hiding. And then the Mahavishnu made Lord Brahma, made Gopkumar Lord Brahma. He became Lord Brahma. And it was this quality he had this taste for bhakti, this taste for simplicity, the sweetness of Vrindavan. So he wasn't attracted to opulence at all. And there are people like that. They're not attracted to opulence. They just like the sweetness, just like Govardhan, Bṛhad-bhāsis, simplicity, beautiful Bṛhad-bhāsis. So beautiful and simple. And but he didn't like the management responsibilities. Even though he did such a great job, he put Vaishnavas in all positions, and he was creating joy within the universe, and Krishna consciousness was spreading. But he just didn't like that management. And then he became a little depressed, and he took shelter of the holy name of his mantra that relieved him of the distress, but it created another distress because he started missing that beautiful sweetness of Vrindavan. But then, because he had this relationship with Mahavishnu, and Mahavishnu treated him with vatsalya or affection, it wasn't a big deal. He soon forgot it. Like a kid that cries and the mother picks him up, they forget about the crying, or they feel shelter. And then Lakshmi would coddle him and treat him very, would treat him very nicely also. So, all was going, so he was there for a long, long time. And then he overheard some of the people there, and all the personified Vedas are there. And he heard them talking about a person who attained liberation. And again, as he didn't know what Lord Brahma was, he didn't know what liberation was. He just had this simple attraction to God's names and his guru. Like that person that was reading, was crying and reading the Bhagavad Gita, but he was actually illiterate. But his guru told him he should read the Bhagavad Gita, and then Lord Chaitanya went and said, "Why are you crying?" And he said, "Because I'm seeing this picture. And even though Krishna is God, he's become the servant of his devotee." And that was so beautiful for him. So what happened is, right after that, they started talking about liberation. He became interested in liberation. But because he's Lord Brahma, all the personified Vedas are there, and there's two different opinions of liberation. One is that it comes by Gyan, philosophical analysis, and based on that analysis, increasing detachment, yoga, chitta vritti, nirodha. This is Bṛhad, it's not Chicago. When I visited the Chicago temple, I heard shooting outside. Yeah, it was quite a neighborhood. I'd rather hear the firecrackers of Govardhan than attain love of Godhead any place else. Sounds you have to do here too. Shut it. What?
This one closes from outside.
No, close them both.
Close it from inside?
No, you just take the screen and then just a little bit. A little bit better. This is much more insulated now, right?
Yes.
I hope he gets tired soon. Anyway, so there's this argument. The Shrutis and the Vedas are something, part of it. Therefore, this Gyanik and the Āgamas and Purāṇas are saying devotional service. Liberation comes from devotional service. And for so many perspectives, we understand, and it's going to be discussed, and it's such an important point in devotional service, especially you're in India and you hear so many things, that actually liberation will come from devotion. Because devotion is the path of grace. And without grace, you can never perfect yoga. Bhakti is independent of all paths dependent on worship. And when studying the Yoga Sutras, when it describes samadhi, and one thing when you asked me, Hemalatarada, about the class today, well, one thing I did, I thought it was going to be a new group, but it wasn't a new group. But eventually I did what I was going to do with them. I was going to ask them to be silent, sit up straight, and in your mind, be perfect yogis and meditate on the holy name without any thoughts crossing your mind. And obviously, after a minute, everyone would have failed. They wouldn't be perfect yogis. Some thoughts would come. And I explained to them there's something like samadhi means 1 hour and like 35 minutes or something like that, around there, without any other thought in the mind. That's the first stage of yoga. The second stage of yoga is to meditate on an object for that long without any conception of the object in your mind. That's the second stage. Then the third stage is you just have to see prakriti and not any. So and the other stages I couldn't even comprehend because you have to realize them. So it's actually impossible to perfect yoga by jnana. It's actually impossible. The only way it can be done is by grace. By two things, by grace and by emotion. Because to connect to an object intellectually is absorbed in an object intellectually is too difficult. But emotionally, you can really become absorbed in an object without thinking of anything else. And I tell this little exercise that I said I had little kutirs here, and I was the meditation guru. And I brought you into one of the kutirs, and it was typical Indian, which means it had like a little wood bed, and under it are all my medicines and sweets. And there's a connection between the sweets and the medicines. Knowing that 90% of Gaudiya Math sannyasis have either diabetes or heart problems from the diet. There were so many functions, and then it had a clothesline over, like the hanger instead of a closet, and it's cluttered. And I tell people that your first instruction for meditation will be on a piece of paper on the bed. And then I lock them in. I said, I'll come back in an hour. And the first instruction is, look, you're in the meditational process. There's a cobra in the room. Don't think of it. And then what will happen is the person will be completely absorbed in the cobra. I'm not going to put them in a room with a cobra, but they'll be completely absorbed in the cobra. And because there's an emotional connection. So in devotion, I think three things happen. One, there's an emotional connection, and ultimately, if you practice, the most consummate or full emotion is love, and the highest love is love of Godhead. So there's an emotional attachment to the object. The object can reciprocate with your effort to perfect yoga. And in the commentaries on Ishvara Pranidhan, there's 6 main commentators on the Yoga Sutras. If you read those commentators on Ishvara Pranidhan Va, or you can meditate on God, which means mantra. Mantra means God and sound. Because yoga is a technique. It's not a philosophical worldview as much as a technique. This is how you control your mind. So it doesn't matter what you meditate on technically, because it's a mechanical process. But they recommend mantra because mantra can reciprocate with your effort to focus on it and allow you to achieve beyond your ability, which is required to perfect yoga, because no one can perfect yoga in the mechanical way. So it's the path of grace. And then you have this attachment to the object, and also because bhakti is the essence of the pleasure potency, you get this pleasure. So eventually, and therefore it's Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Piyojita Jana Yasu Vairagyam Jana Haitakam. That by Vasudevi Bhagavati, bhakti yoga, Priyaja, by bhakti yoga, by devotion to God. Vasudeva Bhakti Yoga, that knowledge and renunciation will come easily, with a little effort, because of your attachment, because you're attracted to God, you're attracted to Krishna. So the renunciation, Vishya Vini Vartante, Niraharasya Dhyana, Vaso Rajam, Vaso Pyasya, Param, you get a higher taste. So therefore, we have organic part in the Gita, Deheno Smin Yata Dehe, Komaran Yobanam Jara, is a bodied soul, you're not the body, you're not, but it's a little part of the Gita. We don't need that much, Gyan, not this, analyzing. So this section is going to present in so many ways how devotion is the better path of becoming liberated and detached from absorption in the material concept of life. So that's what this section's about. And they were arguing all the different Shastras were arguing, and they said the Āgamas won, and victory went to them, and their view was liberation is easily attained simply by chanting mantras, worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's the conclusion. And in this Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, which is the Bhagavatam, which is this brilliant literary treatise, all these main themes of the Bhagavatam are woven in so beautifully. And this is one of the main things, the superiority of bhakti. Maya vipretya tadbhavam te Purāṇāgamadaya anuniyas sabhamadhyam anita stuti patavai. Discerning the inner mood of the Purāṇas, Āgamas, and other scriptures who had left the debate, I pacified them with tactful praise and brought them back to the assembly. So the Purāṇas and the Āgamas who had left, they were the devotional scriptures, and one of the natures of a devotee is they don't engage in debate and argument. That's not their tendency, because debate and argument is a tussle for superiority. And that's not the objective of a real devotee. So they can transcend. A real devotee will transcend the false ego. That's why when they challenge Rupa Goswami sometime, and they wanted the mantra that you defeat, he signed it. It's not ego. He doesn't care. And I try to practice it. I do try to practice it. And it's tough sometimes, because you just want to, and you're wrong, and you want to make your point, and you know you can make your point, but sign the paper, okay, or just shut up, leave it that way, let them have the last word. Or to admit that you're wrong, oh my God. The false ego is subtly saying, I want superiority. Because with superiority I can control, and with controlling I can enjoy, because I can move objects in front. I can move objects for my senses. So to say you're wrong, any way to relinquish power is so difficult. People are so afraid of it. And so he pacified them. Gopkumar noted the grave smiles on the face of the Bhagavatam, Sattvata, Siddhanta, and other scriptures who left the assembly. Those signs led him to believe that these few shastras, among all others, best understood the truth. With humility and adroit praise, he managed to bring them back. Tatatvam sadaram prishtas tate Sri Bhagavataya uchu sattvata siddhantad yagama shruti maulabi. From those scriptures, the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta and the Sattvata Siddhanta and other Āgamas and the foremost Shrutis, I respectfully asked for the truth about the matter, and they replied. Purport: with great respect, Gopakumar asked the Bhagavatam and other devotional scriptures about the true nature of liberation. He also inquired why they had responded to the discussion the way they had, first by smiling silently, then by covering their ears, and then leaving the assembly. Sri Bhakti Shastrani Ucha Labda Brahmadikaredam Mahagopyam Nirdayapi Bhavat Sadguna Sandohar Akyamo Mukare Kriti. The devotional scriptures said, O dear one who have achieved the post of Brahma, this topic is more secret than a rare treasure, but we shall explain it to you because your abundant good qualities inspire us to speak freely. Yeah, so part of speaking is that there must be an audience. And you're dependent on, not only on the audience being there, you're dependent on the audience faith to really trust and want to hear. And so always in a spiritual discussion, it's not just dependent on the teacher, it's dependent on the sincerity of the student. There's a phrase in English, you don't throw pearls to a pig, a swine. Because it's a valuable thing, but what can they do with it? Same thing, it's so valuable, the inner meanings. But if you think the person's faithless, you think they're going to become offensive, you think they're not interested, or you think they're going to misinterpret it, what is the use? So purport, in the text 169 through 230, the Bhakti Shastras answer, since Gopakumar holds the post of Lord Brahma, he is worthy of the privilege to hear such elevated topics. One might argue that the secrets of devotional service should not be freely divulged to anyone, not even the Lord of an entire universe, unless he's fully surrendered to the Supreme Lord and his devotees. But then Gopakumar's personal qualifications should be taken into account, especially his eagerness to engage in the Supreme Lord's service. Kvachit prastuyate smabhir bhagavad bhakti tatparai mokshas cha jayitam samyag vinindhyasa parichada. We who are dedicated to the personality of Godhead's devotional service may sometimes discuss liberation, but only to encourage people to reject it completely. When we speak of liberation, we condemn it and everything that goes with it. Why do they condemn liberation? Because from a bhakti standpoint, it's a personal desire. I want to be free from suffering. That's okay. I want to, but it's still a personal desire, a selfish desire to a certain extent. So on the level of bhakti, on high bhakti, anya bilashita shunya jnana karma janavritam. You don't care. Narayana parasarve nakutas chanya bibyati swaga pavaga narakeshu apitu yatida. For one who is Narayana Parayana, who really loves God deeply from his heart, Narayana parasarve nakuta swaga pavaga, but it doesn't matter. liberation, hell, earthly planet, heavenly planet, it doesn't matter. Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundarim, Kavitam Va, Jagadisha Kame, Mama Janmani, Janmi Ishvari, Bhavata, Bhakti, okay. I just want your service, birth after birth. I don't even care for liberation. And Narada Muni, when he got Sakshat Darshan, when he saw God, and then he tried the second time, he wasn't successful, and God told him, you were unqualified. Why? You had some material taint. And what was the material taint? He was attached to the Himalayas because they were so peaceful. But that's tinged with passion because it's still a desire. So it's not Vasudeva, what is it? Vishuddha Sattvam, Vasudeva Shabditam. Vasudeva Shabditam. Vishuddha Sattva, the pure goodness, which means no personal desire. I just want to serve. Vasudeva, that's called Vasudeva consciousness because Vasudeva, Krishna came in his heart due to his purity. Purport, the Bhakti Shastras have no business promoting liberation, but sometimes they do describe it because people generally cannot give up attachment to something unless scientifically taught why it is undesirable. When the Bhakti Shastras speak of liberation, they criticize attachment to liberation for its own sake, and attachment to Gyan and the other impersonal means of striving for liberation. A few more verses. Nirvaktum bhakti mahatmyam katiyate syapi tatkvachit natu sadhya palaptvena sukagando pinasthityat. To describe the ultimate glories of devotional service, we may sometimes speak highly of moksha, liberation, but we do not intend to claim moksha the final goal of spiritual discipline, because in moksha there's not even a trace of real happiness. In the path of real happiness. There's happiness, much more than we can conceive here. But compared to bhakti, it's considered nothing, because bhakti is manifestation of the God's pleasure potency. The essence of the Ladini Shakti, the pleasure potency, is Krishna Prema. So that's, the devotee enjoys the same pleasure as God, because that's what a loving relationship means. The enjoyment is the love. So, in some passages of the Bhakti Shastras, the joy found in liberation is described as being greater than any happiness in material life. The Shastras provide this information to contrast the joy of liberation with the joy of pure devotional service, which is billions of times more intense. Other than the joy of liberation, nothing can be meaningfully compared to the joy of bhakti. Properly speaking, however, the concept of joy and liberation is only a theoretical creation of the impersonalist. As the Bhakti Shastras declare in this verse, in liberation there's not even a trace of real happiness. Yata roge sushuptau cha sukam mokshe pakalpyate param tvagyanam sagyayam anabhigyo parochaka. The so-called happiness of liberation may be compared to the happiness of not being sick or the enjoyment of deep sleep. In fact, the very term liberation is a misnomer created by illusion, and it appeals only to the ignorant. So that's a great joy. In one sense, let's say you had a terminal disease, and then the next day someone says, it's gone, it's in remission. My brother told, he went to the doctor and there was something and he had to see whether it was cancer or not, and it was not, and it was like the happiest day in his life. But it's not a real happiness. It's a relief from distress. Because if it was real happiness, then everyone without the disease would be feeling the happiness. But it's the only people that had it and got rid of it. As the scriptures like to do, they here support their proposition with analogies. Simply being free from the pain of disease is not positive happiness, nor is there happiness in deep sleep, which is nothing but a condition of ignorance. One only imagines that in deep sleep one is happy, because in that sleep one is free for a while from the mind's flights of fancy and from dreams and other agitations. One thinks, I slept happily, unaware of anything. In the same way, one only imagines that there's happiness and liberation, a state of apparent voidness in which birth, death, and other pains of material existence are not perceived. People praise liberation only because they're unaware of the facts. The very term liberation is a misnomer, as Lord Brahma states in the 10th canto of Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta. The conception of material bondage and that of liberation are both signs of ignorance. They lie outside the scope of true knowledge. They cease to exist when one correctly knows that the pure spirit soul is distinct from matter and always fully conscious. Bondage and liberation, they no longer have any meaning, just as day and night mean nothing for the sun. I will do one more verse because I can see we did our Ekadasi. I eat so much and then I don't eat. Katachid Bhagavan Nama Basasyapi Nasidyati Sakrid Uchara Matrena Kimva Karna Paveshata. From even a shadow of the Lord's name, if one somehow chants them but once, or merely if they enter the ear, liberation is easily attained. If even after hearing how the previous verse describes liberation, one still wants to know the means to attain it, from the present statement one could learn that devotees of the personality of Godhead can achieve liberation without separate endeavor as mere byproducts of bhakti. Because bhakti, you develop an attraction for God, so automatically you neglect the irrational impulses of the mind and senses. You don't have to focus on it. Furthermore, one's service to the holy names of the Lord need not even be pure. Simply Nam Bas, the shadow of chanting the Lord's names, earns one's liberation. Nam Bas resembles the shadow of the real object in the world. It is unintentional uttering in jest, contempt, or other moods of neglect of sounds that contain the syllables as Lord Vishnu's names. Chanting or hearing Nam Bas even once results in liberation. This is stated in 6th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. It should therefore be understood. Haribo, come on in. Okay. Sit down. Have a chair. We're almost finished. Bring the baby. Bring the baby. Haribo, Haribo. We're finishing it up. It should therefore be understood that one is easily relieved from all sinful reactions by chanting the holy name of the Lord and chanting of his qualities and activities. This is the only process recommended for relief from sinful reactions. Even if one chants the holy name of the Lord with improper pronunciation, he will achieve relief from material bondage if he chants without offenses. Āgamānāṁ, for example, was extremely sinful, but while dying, he merely chanted the holy name. And although calling his son, he achieved complete liberation because he remembered the name of Narayan. Also, at the beginning of the history of Satyatapa, Sri Varaha Purāṇa 38:20 tells of a tiger that once approached a Brahmin who was busy chanting japa while standing in the water. The tiger wanted to eat the Brahmin, but at the very moment the tiger was killed by a hunter. Because of hearing the names of the Supreme Lord from the mouth of the Brahmin, the tiger was liberated. Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. Okay, I have a call in 7 minutes, so let's see. Jamunajaya, are you still there?
Yes, Maharaj, I'm still here. Thank you for class, Maharaj. So many wonderful, hey, everybody. Haribo. Oh, so good just to see that room. Oh, mwah. Hey, everybody. I really love this unpacking of liberation and your explanation of, or the reading of the explanation that it's like waking up from an illness. And I just have real personal experience. There's a person this week that found out, like you were saying about your brother, it's not cancer or the cancer is gone. And seeing her have this like relief, but not happiness at all, just made that such a good analogy for me, because I've always gotten that liberation does seem awfully selfish. But this other analogy was really so helpful because I just saw it in real time, that she was relieved, but not happy at all. So thank you, Raj, so much for that. It makes so much sense today.
Who was that?
It's one of my sisters.
One of your sisters.
Yeah, thankfully Krishna has it's gone. It's out.
Are you the youngest?
Yes, Maharaj, I am. With all the youngest tendencies.
How many sisters you have?
I have 2 sisters and 3 brothers. I'm one of 6. Yeah.
And you're the baby.
Yes, Raj, I am. They never let me forget it either.
Okay.
Thank you, Raj. Hare Krishna.
Gail, you had something to ask?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Well, one thing I want to say also on the same point was that, it was interesting when you said that you can understand that something is not relief. I mean, that something is just relief because so many other people are not sick, yet they're not happy, So if not being sick was the key to happiness, then so many people would be happy. But anyway, one question I have is that, would you say that namabhas is when you don't have like full realization that Krishna is his name? Because we all accept, right, that Krishna is his name in sound form. But because we don't have full realization of it, that's what makes our chanting namabhas, is it?
Well, our chanting namabhas is when we are consciously, always sincerely chanting and trying to avoid offenses. Even though, we may be attentive or something, that's namabhas. It's inoffensive chanting. And when people are ignorant, they can have that too. They can chant very innocently the names. Anyway, it's just glorifying the holy name, how powerful it is. And we'll see in this section and coming up that Nam Sankirtan is considered the most powerful process. Okay, Gail.
To be continued.
Okay. Anybody else like to say hello? I have 3 more minutes because I have to. Okay, this is from Yoga Maya Shakti Devi Dasi. Thich Nhat Hanh, Buddhist monk, used to say that we should be grateful when we have a toothache because we would not know what it's like not to have one and fully appreciate not having one. I like Prabhupada's sayings better, but anyway. Anybody else? Thank you, Yoga Maya Shakti. Anybody else say hello today? Huh? Anybody else?
Hare
Hare Krishna
Hare-
Maharaj.
Okay, this is Lal Govinda without his eternal brother.
She's on
Just left you and went to India just like that. Right?
yeah, no thought behind it.
Nothing.
Didn't even leave me with food.
What's that?
She didn't even leave me with any kind of prasadam.
She
Just
told me
on my own.
she told me she cooked pre-prepared meals for 3 weeks. No?
Nothing. Not a crumb.
Okay.
Very cool.
Okay. Anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Bhakti Devi, Haribo.
Haribo. Great class. Thank you.
Say hello.
Hello.
Okay, nice to see you, Bhakti Devi.
You too.
I ran into Jai Jagannath on the Prikram's path. We were
I met
walking
him.
around. He was doing his Dandavat Prikrams with Bunky. With Bunky. Okay.
Good for him.
Okay. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj,
Hare Krishna
Radhika
Maharaj.
here.
My favorite couple.
Thank you for the class,
Wait.
Maharaj.
What's the countdown to the dates? How many more days?
It's
3 weeks?
No, it's less
2
than 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Oh my gosh.
It's
Okay.
2 weeks exactly. 2 weeks.
2 weeks of getting married. Everyone bless them. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Okay, Haribo.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Okay, good. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Скорее не кончу.
Oh, Kaylina Kun. What are you making a garland?
Yes, for deities. I mean,
Where are you?
in St. Petersburg.
Okay, say hello to Acharya. Okay, it's Kaylina Kun. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, hope to see you soon, okay? Nice lady. Very well behaved. Anybody else say hello? Okay, we will, and now I look at the list of all the people that have attended today and pray for everyone. From Govardhan? Okay. All right, everybody could head out.